Good morning. Good morning to all. Good morning to all. We will start the session in a couple of seconds.
Okay, Michael Feiner is in the house.
Okay, are we live?
Yeah, we are live.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to today's webinar doing business in Mozambique as part of our DACH series, DACH standing for D Germany, A Austria, and CH Switzerland, and co-organized by the Southern African German Chamber of Commerce, AHK, the Afrika-Verein live from Berlin, Advantage Austria, and the Swiss Business Hub. My name is Stephanie Lebite. I'm the head of the Swiss Business Hub, and I have the honor to be the moderator throughout this session. Maybe just a couple of words with regards to the Swiss Business Hub. We're Switzerland's official trade and investment promotion agency, supporting Swiss companies on the African continent, and as well African companies are eager to invest. We have as well a large infrastructure mandate, where we support large infrastructure investments across sub-Saharan Africa. I'm sure my German and Austrian colleagues will as well present their respective trade and investment promotion agencies. But now back to the webinar. We will provide an overview of the economic and also investment opportunities in Mozambique, highlighting key sectors such as logistics, but also mining. And of course, underscoring Mozambique's pivotal role in regional economic corridors originating from its main ports. We will have a discussion as well around innovation and sustainable solutions. As you know, critical in addressing climate change, and as well as we could actually also see it in Switzerland just recently was the floods and was the damage that occurred on the critical infrastructure side. Let me, before we move on, just highlight some housekeeping rules. Please ensure that your microphone is muted throughout the webinar. We have a chat function where you can input your different questions or comments in this chat box. We will then as well select the questions, and the panelists will be able to address them. Feel free as well to engage with other participants, and of course, our presentations and recording will be shared as usual. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to warmly welcome Mr. Stephen Geiger, who is the Deputy Head of Mission of the Embassy of Switzerland in Mozambique, and who will give us some insights around the Swiss-Mozambican partnerships. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Geiger.
Thank you, Ms. Labite, and good morning to all. It is a real pleasure for me to open this webinar on doing business in Mozambique. This webinar arrives at the right time, and I am particularly pleased that it is organized in a DACH perspective. DACH represents the region where German is spoken, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. But in German, DACH also means a roof, which reminds us that we are all living under the same roof on this beautiful planet that we ought to protect and preserve. Switzerland encourages and supports the responsible conduct of businesses, including in the extractive industry, as well as the role of the private sector in addressing climate change and achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm particularly pleased about the close collaboration that the Embassy of Switzerland established with the Swiss Business Hub in Pretoria, as well as with the Swiss Chamber of Commerce and its members in Mozambique. It's a bit like the Swiss football team at the Euro. A good spirit leads the team to remarkable results. We note an increasing interest of Swiss businesses for the African continent, which is very encouraging. The continent will host more than 1/4 of the world's population in 2050 and 40% by the end of the century. So the future is in Africa, and the future starts today. Mozambique is recovering from diverse shocks and is recovering the cruising speed it experienced in the past with 5% or more of GDP growth. Though the country is not yet in an advanced phase of development, it presents a large array of opportunities. I would here mention agriculture, agro-processing, energy, infrastructure, mineral resources, and tourism. Mozambique is a logistic hub with 3 very important economic corridors that serve the hinterlands, like countries like Zimbabwe, Malawi, Zambia, and links them to the ocean. Mozambique also approved an ambitious strategy for energy transition and intends to position itself as a champion of carbon credits. Clean energy will be without doubt a driver of growth, and given the strongly growing demand for energy in the region experiencing an energy deficit. Switzerland, as a champion in clean tech, certainly has an opportunity in this area. Mozambique launched a reform to improve the business environment to promote growth. These reforms include facilitating, including for business people, and the private investment law, which make the country more attractive to investors, both domestic and foreign investors. Private investment will be crucial for the future of Mozambique. We all know that new jobs come from the private sectors. Salaries, pensions, and debt service absorb 93% of public revenues in Mozambique, which leaves the government little fiscal space for investments. In the past few years, economic growth essentially was driven by the extractive industry. It is therefore even more important to diversify the economy. It is also important that the country keeps its attention to improving the framework conditions in which business operates. The very high reserve requirements for banks, combined with high interest rates and high domestic borrowing by the government, are constraining access to finance and are restraining private sector development in the non-gas sector, especially of SMEs, which already have a scarce access to finance. A gradual easing of monetary policy is warranted to stimulate private sector-led development and job creation. As I said before, the private sector has a key role to play in Mozambique's development. For its part, the embassy does not stand by idly. We contribute to improving framework conditions through substantive background work in the area of good governance. By working on fighting against corruption, supporting the recovery of illicit stolen assets, by training judges, supporting decentralization and the management of public finance. All this we do with a view to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of public services for citizens. In parallel, we developed in the last few years a portfolio of support to economic development, mostly in northern Mozambique. We support vocational skills development for the marginalized youth in rural and peri-urban areas, which is excluded from the formal technical vocational training offer. We support the growth of agricultural and non-agricultural SMEs through 2 private sector development and agricultural value chain projects. We also support a microfinance bank based in Nampula, providing loans, savings, and micro-insurances to SMEs. The objective is to increase employment and income for young men and women. At the national level, Switzerland is supporting public finance management reforms and the project helping the government to implement the commercial law that aims to facilitate the registration of businesses and reducing compliance costs. Again, it's a pleasure to open this webinar, and I hope that participants will have a better idea about potential opportunities and the realities in Mozambique. And I wish a fruitful discussion. And I would like to give back the floor to the moderation, to Ms. Labite. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Mr. Geiger, for this short introduction into the opportunities in Mozambique. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Michael Feiner, who is the Deputy Head of Mission of the Federal Republic of Germany in Mozambique. Dr. Feiner, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Labide. Hello, good morning to everyone from near and far. Mozambique in 3 minutes, from 11:10 to 11:13. That means in 180 words. It's quite a challenge, and I've already used about 10% of those words. Thankfully, I can refer to what Stephen Geiger very aptly presented to you. So there will be some repetitions, but maybe a little bit of new. First of all, congratulations that you take the opportunity and take an interest in Mozambique. There is quite something to be discovered. When we talk about Mozambique, one frequently hears the word potential. And potential exists, as we just heard, no doubt, abundantly. What, of course, comes first to mind are the natural resources, the mining sector, gas, LNG, where Mozambique stands to become one of the major players over the next half decade or so. Mozambique is also, that was mentioned, supplying energy from hydro, also increasingly solar, to the whole sub-region, Southern Africa. And that is a very promising sector. By the way, the German embassy will be organizing on 25th of July here in Maputo an event on the energy sector for interested businesses. Having said that, there is need in almost every sector, and for example, 70% of the population still work in subsistence farmers in agriculture. Modernization and industrialization of the agricultural sector is one of the big challenges and one of the essential tasks ahead if the country wants to move forward. They also have to establish an agricultural value chain, and that represents quite an opportunity for interested investors. Construction services, including the health sector, are promising, and the large tourism potential has hardly been tapped. Potential, when we speak about it at the same time, means something different. It means that the current state of affairs is considered inadequate, and indeed there are challenges. Infrastructure, especially outside the capital, is lacking. The ease of doing business score of Mozambique is not great at all. There is bureaucracy, there are rigid labor laws, but there is also goodwill to improve things. So there is a trade-off to be made between quite a high potential and good business prospects on the one hand, and the difficulties of the business environment on the other. There are, for example, quite a number of companies from all over the world, from Southern European countries, from Turkey, Gulf states, India, China, who have taken on those challenges and are seemingly doing quite good business and are quite content once they've established themselves here. Two last points. Mozambique is a very friendly country. The culture is cooperative, and there is hardly any crime or security problem apart from the special situation, but that's the one hears most about in Europe, which is the situation in Cabo Delgado, where Islamist terrorists terrorizing the population. But that is 2,000 kilometers north of Maputo and does not affect the whole country. So one should really separate those two situations. German-speaking companies, in my view, can make one important contribution, which also would be highly valued by the local partners. We are all very strong in education and training our workforce, and that is something which is lacking so far, and there is a great need. Again, when it comes to human resources, there is quite a potential. So please come and have a look for yourself, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate also to contact us. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dr. Feiner, for as well your welcome words and highlighting, I think, through our partnerships, better education and as well training, which has of course its importance. Now let us turn our attention to the activities of our Austrian colleagues, and I would welcome Mr. Oliver Lichtenecker, who is the Austrian Deputy Trade Commissioner for Advantage Austria and in Southern Africa. Oliver, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. Dear ladies and gentlemen, estimados señoras y señores, very warm welcome to this webinar, Doing Business in Mozambique, a part of this webinar series, Exploring Southern Africa. Welcome to this gathering of businesses and experts from Mozambique, as well as Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. A special welcome from my side, especially to these roughly 50 Austrian companies that have signed up for this webinar today, which really shows the interest in the promising Mozambican market. It is a pleasure to have you here today to explore the vast spectrum of business opportunities that connect our nations. Thank you as well to the colleagues from APX Mozambique, the Chamber of Mines of Mozambique and North Parks. And especially thank you also for the lead in this webinar to our colleagues from the Swiss Business Hub in Pretoria, and also to our colleagues from the Southern African German Chamber of Commerce and Industry, as well as the Afrika-Verein der deutschen Wirtschaft. I will keep myself very short. My name is Oliver Lichtenecker. I'm the Austrian Deputy Trade Commissioner for Southern Africa, resident in Johannesburg. Our office is also known as Advantage Austria Johannesburg, as well as the commercial section of the Austrian Embassy, where we promote trade between Austria and a total of 18 countries of Southern Africa, one of them obviously being Mozambique. So let's just take a very tiny glimpse of our bilateral trade relations between Austria and Mozambique. Austrian companies have engaged, especially in the infrastructure field in the last years, notably the medical sector as well as the hydropower sector. Mozambican companies mainly exported graphite and aluminium, as well as finished goods thereof to Austria. As most of us know, Mozambique is one of the countries, I think it was mentioned before today, is one of the countries most at risk towards impacts of climate change. There's a lot to be done in this regard. Austrian companies can support and help, especially as well in this field. Austria is also present in Mozambique with an office of the Austrian Development Agency in Maputo. So I think someone has the microphone on.
I just muted him.
Good. Probably it was a sign to come to an end for me. So in general, from renewable energy to infrastructure, from agriculture to tourism, the possibilities are endless. They are there. Therefore, I would now like to hand over to the real experts that you all are here for. Let's explore the business and the partnership opportunities between Mozambique and Austria, and of course Germany and Switzerland together. May this webinar be a stepping stone towards a further growing partnership. And yeah, thank you so much. Muito obrigado pela oportunidade.
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you very much. And as you said, without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Nuno Mapose, who is the Project Management Director of the Agency for Promotion of Investment and Export, APIEX, and who will give us a compact overview of the economic landscape and investment opportunities in Mozambique. Mr. Mapose, it is an honor to have you with us today, and we look forward to hearing your insights. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Labite. Good morning, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a pleasure for me and APIEX to take part in this important gathering. My presentation will have a video, introductory video of 3 minutes, then I will go through my slides. So please feel free to dim the video.
Can everyone hear the sound?
No.
No. Okay, let me start again. Sorry, I'll get back there now. Just give me a second. All right, it should work now. If the sound doesn't work, please do let me know.
Alexa, there is no sound for now. Okay. Yes, sound is on. Thank you.
Get ready for an unforgettable journey. This is the unspoiled natural beauty of Mozambique, where sandy beaches complement the crystal blue Indian Ocean, where mountains, rivers and wildlife are the backdrop for unforgettable journeys. Join us as we discover what this up-and-coming destination has to offer. This is Mozambique.
So, well, thank you very much for your attention to the video. As you have seen, the video is a snapshot of what Mozambique is. And with that as stepping stone, we will I will basically cover four topics, which are listed, brief introduction of my agency, the Investment Promotion and Export Agency, then few reasons to invest in Mozambique, then key aspects of the investment legal framework, and last but not least, the investment opportunities. So next, please. We can move on to the next slide. Well, PX stands for Investment and Export Promotion Agency. We are a government body responsible by promoting Mozambique as an investment destination and obviously providing them assistance to both private and Mozambicans and foreign investors to get into the market. We also have a list of investment opportunities. We do the profiling of investment opportunities, and we also do the registration of actual investment projects or intention from Mozambicans and foreign investors. So we do also provide aftercare. We act as a one-stop shop where we assist investors to navigate through the procedures in order to facilitate. I mean, one of the key speakers just mentioned the need of improvement of procedures. So the government has embarked in a number of measures to facilitate the investments and also improve the business environment. We also provide assistance in inbound and outbound business missions, where alongside with the private sector, we assist investors to go into the market. So next, please. Next, please. So the bad news, as we have seen, we have a challenge of infrastructure. For a country of 800,000 square kilometers, the current infrastructure is not reliable. It's not enabling to business. We have also lack of a robust industrial base. We have a lot of challenge in terms of value chain in all sectors, from agriculture to energy to logistics to mining and tourism and so on. So these are the bad news. We also have gaps in terms of technology. Most sectors are still relying on obsolete technology. We also have some extent lack of skills for specific sectors, especially the most sophisticated sectors. So these are some of the challenges. However, the good news is that we are well located. That was clearly said at the beginning. We provide access to interland countries through our rail and port infrastructure. We are also located and have access to preferential markets based on agreements. We are part of the African Free Trade Area. We are a market of 1.4 billion consumers we can access preferentially. This market is a combined GDP of 3.5 trillion US dollars. So you can, once based in Mozambique, trade with all the entire African countries, which is the biggest free trade area in terms of number of countries, which are 54 countries in Africa. So moving on, please. Moving on, for sake of time, in terms of economic outlook, I think most has been said. I will only share the fact that Mozambique is now in the map of LNG in the global market, thanks to a project of $7.2 billion, the floating LNG platform. Mozambique since November 22 is exporting gas, and there are prospects of doubling its capacity. We also have in pipeline projects worth more than $50 billion in the same area, knowing that we have over 150 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. We are looking into, based on the new projects, Mozambique has the potential to grow over the next 10 years at a rate of 13%. In terms of investment approved, over the past 5 years, next please, over the past 5 years, Mozambique approved $5.2 billion US dollars from different countries that you will later on see the list. And the main sector was energy, and mostly mostly clean energy based on solar systems and the hydropower plants. We have industry taking 20% of this share of investment, then service, tourism lagged behind with 11%. So somehow the challenge that we mentioned had before, there are some of them being challenged, being faced and covered. So moving on, the top investors, 10 investors are as follows. We currently have China at the number 1. We have South Africa, we have United Arab Emirates, Mauritius, UK. And as you can see, we don't have here any of the countries that are attending this event. So the challenge is that you join the Big 10 list of investors in Mozambique. Next, please. I think I'm running short of time. So in terms of investment legal framework, I think most has been said. We have a new legislation approved last year, which is based on the best practice in terms of investment promotion. And this legislation provides a balance between the rights and obligation of both foreign and domestic investors. The government, based on this law, provides more guarantees in terms of repatriation of profits or capital from on investment. We also provide more investment guarantees in terms of protection, legal protection of your investments. And we also provide in terms of approval or processing process. We have abolished the use of approval or screening in the investment process. Now we do simply registration, which takes place in 3 days. We simply register projects. We no longer do the screening. We no longer do the approval or the authorization. So this has so far contributed to the substantial increase of investments taking place in the country. Next, please. I think in terms of next, so I mean, the guarantees have almost covered them. So next, please. In terms of sectors, I think key incentives are mostly based on duty import of capital goods. So import of capital goods too put in place to develop the project in the country are exempted. The same applies for VAT. During the operational phase, the government provides exemption in the case of special economic zone, industrial free zones for the first 5 years, then a reduction of 50% for those projects embarking on special economic zones or located in our industrial parks focused on industrial free zones, but also for those incentives that are generic, the government still provides a fiscal credit that results of 5 to 10%, which results in a reduction of their corporate tax. Next, please. I'm afraid I'm running out of time. So this shows that the government incentives in Mozambique are tailor-made. So based on the sector of activity, the specific package of incentive is given. And I will not cover them because they have really focused in different sectors, and from PPPs to agriculture, to tourism, to manufacturing, and so on. So moving on to the next slide. I think now covered the investment opportunities. The investment opportunities have been already mentioned. by the previous speaker. So the government consider agriculture, which contribute with 25% of our GDP as a key sector. Energy as well. So this shows a list of bilateral investment agreements. Switzerland, for instance, is there. Germany as well. So I'm facing some problem with the network. Hope you're still following me. So moving on to the next slide. Yeah, so this is the final slide, which mostly highlights the key sectors which we consider most attractive. And the reason has been already mentioned by my previous speakers. Agriculture is the key sector and contributes with 24% now. Energy also is on the increase, especially clean energies. Infrastructure is a very important sector. We look into manufacturing, which account to 7% now. And we also look into the extractive industry, the mineral resource in particular, that moved from 3% to 10% over the past 10 years. So last but not least, the tourism that you have seen the potential on the video. And at this point, for sake of time, I will really stop here and thank you for your attention. And I'm also available for any question or inquiry that you may have. Thank you very much, and my apologies for taking longer than I was supposed.
No, thank you, Nuno. Thank you, Mr. Mapose. I think it was worthwhile highlighting the opportunities in Mozambique. I know you have much more to say and some interesting slides. Though Switzerland is not in the top 10 investors, we're in the top 15. So we're working together to be in the top 10 with our German and Austrian colleagues. Now we're going to turn our attention to a key sector, and Mr. Gert Clark, Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Chamber of Mines of Mozambique, will provide us with a sector snapshot on the role of mining and focusing on sustainability and innovation. Gert, your turn, please. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. On the Mozambican mining industry, large-scale mining in Mozambique is less than 20 years old. So I guess you could say that the mining industry in Mozambique is a teenager. Now, the main minerals at the moment that we're mining are mineral coal. We've got heavy sands minerals, graphite. Mozambique at the moment is the third largest producer of natural graphite in the world. And then we've also got gold and gemstone mining, rubies in particular. And it's the reason why I said Mozambique's mining industry is really a teenager is to indicate that on the one hand, it's an established industry, but on the other hand, there's a lot of growth potential because Mozambique, as we've heard, is a large country, and for historic reasons, the mineral resources are relatively unexplored and underexploited. So there's a lot of opportunity for growth here. Now, of course, not all of you will be in mining, so let's also look at some of the upstream and downstream opportunities related to the mining industry. If we look at upstream first, so the mining industry obviously has a wide range of inputs that vary, from machines, equipment, spare parts, consumables, and also services that is needed. Originally mostly imported, but now that the industry is established, we see more and more suppliers setting up in Mozambique. To give an example of an opportunity that may be relevant in particular for European companies is the transition also in the industry towards lower CO2 emissions within mining. So we're seeing that some of our members are in remote areas where they don't have access to the energy grid, where they're now shifting from diesel-powered power generation to solar power. So I think there's definitely room for assistance from European companies to help the industry with lowering CO2 emissions within the Mozambican mining industry. If we look at downstream, there's a strong push from the government to industrialize Mozambique. There is a wish that the minerals are used within the country, so value-adding beneficiation of minerals mined in Mozambique. This is something that we're seeing throughout Southern Africa. Mozambique already has legislation in place that allows the government to allocate up to 10% of the mineral production to domestic industry. There's discussion now of further legislation to encourage beneficiation of minerals within Mozambique. That and also the Critical Raw Materials Act in Europe will also be driving the development of new supply chains in order to bring those critical raw materials to Europe and to diversify the supply chains for Europe. So I think there's a big opportunity there downstream as well. As Nuno just mentioned in his speech, there needs to be a lot needs to be done in terms of the infrastructure. Industry, especially downstream industry, will require large amounts of electricity, ports, railroads, and also qualified human resources. But again, that's also a business opportunity that all needs to be developed and put in place. So to summarize from my side, the Mozambican mining industry is growing. It has a bright future, and will be many opportunities, both industry upstream and also downstream, for new entrants and participants to the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gerd, for this excellent presentation and as well highlighting the theme of sustainability. Before I introduce the next speaker, just to highlight as well that we see your questions and comments that our team are holding to them, and we will have a Q&A session after the fire chat. So just bear with us, and we will come back to your questions as well. So, as I said, the theme is sustainability, and this is leading over to our next speaker, Mr. Honorio Emanuel, General Manager at Most Parks, who will be presenting the sustainable economic zones in Mozambique. Honorio, may I ask you to take the floor? Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. I will be sharing my screen. I hope you can see it. Please let me know if you can see it.
Yes, we can see it, but if you could put in presentation mode, but we can see it anyhow. Yes. It
is on slideshow now?
No, it's still not on slideshow. Please, colleagues, come in as well, because I don't, yes.
Okay, let me do it again. Give me a second, please. Okay. And what about now?
No, but I think you can continue to be time-wise online. I think and to give us a snapshot as well around the sustainable economic zone, I suggest you can continue.
Okay, it's fine. Thank you so much for inviting us. My name is Honor Emmanuel. I'm the general manager of Moss Parks. I will be doing this presentation just to complement the other speakers in order also to share specific good examples of investment in Mozambique and having Moss Parks as one of the leaders in the investment. Moss Parks is actually a PPP between the government of Mozambique and the private sector, and that private sector is Swiss and Mozambican investors. So we have been developing Moss Parks since 2000, meaning that we've been doing business in Mozambique for the last 24 years. And our main mandate is to develop what we call sustainable economic zones, which include industrial parks, industrial free zones, and special economic zones. We do that because we believe that Mozambique has huge potential to attract investors, create jobs mainly for the youth, and of course, develop all this kind of initiative within green economy approach, and most importantly, develop communities. We have so far 3 industrial parks in Mozambique, one in Maputo, which is in the south of Mozambique, and the second one in Nampula, the northern part of Mozambique, and the 3rd industrial park is in Cabo Delgado. We aim to develop and operate at least 1 industrial park in each province of Mozambique, meaning that in the next 10 years, we want to develop about 10 industrial parks in addition to the 3 industrial parks that we have. And this is a picture. I'm not sure if you can see the picture I'm sharing now.
I still see the first welcome slide. Maybe Alexa, do you
It's still the first
Hi,
slide.
Honor, it's still the first slide.
Yes, thank you. What I would suggest is, Manuel, that you continue, and the slides will be shared.
Okay, that's fine. So I'll continue that way. But our main message today, as we cannot show what we have done, which is live, it's more to be a kind of live example of investing in Mozambique. We have attracted since 2000 more than 60 companies to our industrial parks. We are talking about very big industries to small industry, which means that it's possible to invest in Mozambique. And we think that by coming to our industrial park is the most efficient way, because you will be coming to a location where we have infrastructures, as we heard from Nuno Mapos from APIET. He mentioned clearly that, of course, there are some challenges in Mozambique to get good infrastructures or reliable infrastructure. But despite that, in our industrial parks, the government has done appropriate investment to make sure that all the industry that will be there will have enough electricity, will have enough water, will have good roads, so that they can trade without any kind of issue. But apart from the infrastructure, by being in the park, you will have special kind of benefits. Companies operating out of our industrial parks, they are exempted from corporate income tax. The normal tax in Mozambique is 32%. So if you are investing out of our industrial parks, means you will be exempted for the first 10 years without paying that normal tax of 32%, which is good support for your investment. And then you start paying over the years, but also a reduction of that tax. You also have reduction of value added tax to make sure that we can, the government can support you in terms of reducing the costs and so on. But also the other important fact here is that our parks are also very well located near the ports, the main hubs, The one in Maputo is about 7-8 kilometers away from the border of South Africa, which makes also process much easier. And we are following the Anchor project. For example, in Cabo Delgado, we will be building 5 industrial parks, one in partnership with Total Energies, meaning that whoever intends to be a supplier of this big project, the industrial parks are the gateway to be in such kind of business opportunity. I mean, I don't have the presentation. I'm not able to share it. I will be happy to answer any sort of question. And please feel free to reach out. I have here in the call my colleague Ashley, who can also take any question that we will not be able to answer here. And we will be happy to do follow-up calls. But to end, we want to invite you to invest in Mozambique. Mozambique is really a greenfield, many business opportunities, construction, downstream. We have many materials in Mozambique. So it's really a greenfield for any sort of investment. And Nuno mentioned very well, government has done a great job to make sure that the legal framework can be the most appropriate one to accommodate any sort of investment. And Mospark is a specific example of such good legislation that Mozambique has, and we are quite happy with that. So we believe we are ready to host any kind of investment, and please feel free to reach out, and we will be more than happy to do any kind of engagement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manuel. Thank you, Mr. Honorio, for this snapshot into the most parks. And as we have emphasized as was emphasized by the previous speakers from Nuno Apiax-Gerd, as well from the Mining Chamber and others, logistics is crucial for regional integration, with Mozambique playing a pivotal role in Southern Africa. And our next session will delve into the topic with a fireside chat titled Mozambique as a Regional Logistics Corridor. And today we have the privilege of hearing insights from 2 esteemed industry experts. I warmly welcome Mrs. Nilza Maibase, Director of Industrial Projects at DHL, as well as Mr. Nicola Del Vecchio, President of the Swiss Mozambican Chamber of Commerce, as well as the President of the Shipping Line Association of Mozambique. Nilza, good morning as well to you. Could you please introduce yourself and share your experience and best practices, actually plural, in achieving business success in Mozambique? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I'm Nilza. I work for DHL. For the past 8 years, I've been involved in logistics and freight forwarding. It has been an exciting journey, as we all know. Nothing happens without logistics. Mr. Honori rightly said as well. So yes, I'm here and happy to share our experience in terms of what we've been doing in Mozambique to make sure that we support this regional corridor. Well, we have 3 main, as it was mentioned before. We have Maputo Corridor, Beira and Nacala. I'm more focused on Maputo and Beira. However, there is opportunity obviously for the Nacala corridor as well, mainly for the exports. And what we've been doing so far, well, in Mozambique, we have 2 business units. We have DHL Express, which is our courier company, and we also have DHL Global Forwarding, which is the freight forwarding part of DHL, and it is the one I represent today. And we obviously have been in the country for the past more than a decade. We've been in Mozambique doing logistics and freight forwarding, and more recently, we have been also started the industrial project division, which is basically a logistics division at DHL to attend to mining sector and also oil and gas, because those are very, very specialized sectors, and we have obviously segregated that to be more dedicated in terms of logistics, because it requires more attention and also flexibility, etc. Not that others doesn't require, but we all know how much it will cost if a machine is down and we are not able to provide the same day the parts that is necessary. So yeah, that's pretty much. And obviously in Mozambique, one thing that concerns me more, it's on the clearing side. I think we have been doing a lot of efforts, and we're recently discussing as well with the customs authorities to ensure that we maybe connect the customs system with our transport system to ensure that we can be more flexible. But apart from that, we believe that also this legislator can change a setup that is currently in place to ensure that the clearing process is more flexible, because we still have 50% paperwork and we have the 50% online, and this slows down the customs clearance process, and it's something that we have been contributing with our expertise to see how we can connect the system and ensure that we have a streamlined clearance process in Mozambique. And obviously also increase our capacity building in the country. We have been training and also we have running internship program in Mozambique, because unfortunately in our universities and also in technical schools, very, very few know and understand the logistics world. What does it mean? Freight forwarding is even more critical. So we have been doing this in country through our educational programs. And obviously something that I believe that would be more beneficial in terms of infrastructure to improve our services as well would be on the requalification of roads, expansion of ports, airports, and especially the reduction, a slight reduction on the airport fees, because it's where we're losing amount of revenue as a country. So that is something that is under discussion. So well, I'm here if you have any question or any further comments, we can. I'm happy to discuss with all of you.
Thank you, Nilsa. Now, Nicola, over to you, and continuing on this topic, on this topic of regional trade corridors, could you outline the current logistic infrastructure in Mozambique that supports regional connectivity and trade facilitation?
Yes, okay, thank you very much. I have to agree with the initial comments at the beginning of the presentation by Geiger, in which he mentioned that Mozambique has the potential to be a logistic hub. I'm less in agreement, betraying my Italian descent, about his comments on the Swiss national team, but we'll leave that aside for our discussion. And it's true, Mozambique really does have a strategic position. You know, it's a 2,700 kilometer coastline, allows it to be a gateway into the inland countries of Southern Africa. So Malawi, Zimbabwe, Zambia, the DRC, Swaziland, and South Africa. And its ports really are the ports of these landlocked countries. Maputo has corridors to Swaziland by rail, to South Africa, to Botswana, to Zimbabwe. Beira in the center of the country also has trade corridors connecting it all the way to the DRC, the copper belts in Zambia, the agricultural areas in Malawi, the mines of Zimbabwe, and also Nacala with its rail corridor is possibly the best and most efficient connection for Malawi to connect it to a port. But this really strong geographical position should not bring it into a situation of compliance, because it does need to compete regionally, both along the coast, so with South African ports and Tanzanian ports, but also on the west side, so Angola with the Lobito corridors, or Namibia progressively developing trade corridors into Zambia and into Malawi. So for Mozambique to gain competitiveness and to remain or to keep the competitiveness that it has now, it really does need to invest into its logistic infrastructure. So this means ports, railways, roads. And it's something that has been done, because Nacala Port recently refurbished and was a $300 million investment. Maputo Port has pledged $2 billion in investment between now and the end of its concession in 2058. So, and of course, for a lot of companies that are operating and possibly participating in this meeting, looking to Mozambique into how they can invest in the country, for sure, there is a drive in terms of investment and growth and construction in the logistic infrastructure. On the flip side, and another point that possibly is important to keep in consideration, is that this infrastructure needs to be logistically integrated. it was mentioned in the discussion that how logistic can help regional integration, but there also needs to be logistic integration. That means that developing an integrated logistic chain rather than a fragmented one. Ports, if they are to penetrate competitively and successfully into the hinterland, they need to be associated with a seamless and continuous rather than fragmented distribution chain. And here the role of shipping lines, freight forwarders, and other logistic operators is key, because they are really the key agents that through their investments in trucking, warehousing, and smaller logistic and infrastructure projects can really create this integrated logistic chain. And the primary objective of this is, of course, is to reduce cost, save time, promote product safety, reduce bureaucracy, and enhance transparency. And of course, in this context, the African Free Trade Agreement will really act as a catalyst to this ongoing process, which, with its ambition to reduce the trade barriers within Africa.
Thank you, Nicola. I think in the interest of time, let me maybe ask one question to both of you, Nilsa and Nicola. Let me start with you, Nilsa. If you would maybe summarize what you said before, regional logistics, and summarize it around highlighting the opportunities and challenges faced by logistic companies, and also ways maybe on how to address these challenges, and so to give a nice summary. Thank you, before we enter the Q&A.
Yeah, well, I believe that the infrastructure plays the biggest role, because we have been in situations where we are not able to deliver cargo to a certain location before we can do a kind of repair in the road. I'm not speaking about remote areas, but even from here, 800 kilometers, or from here, 400 kilometers, where I had this challenge. So that is one. And obviously, we are now also sometimes rerouting cargo, air freight, when it's out of gauge or oversized because of length or weight, to South Africa, to then re-forwarded by truck, because our airport is not able to handle this type of cargo. So that's another one. And then the third one, I would say it's the clearing process, which is extremely bureaucratic, and sometimes we may accumulate, if you're not flexible enough, delays, which is something that no one wants. So I would say that that is the biggest, those are the biggest aspects that we could look at as a country. But obviously, as DHL, we're trying to mitigate. We are acquiring our own fleet. We also acquiring warehouses to see how we can facilitate the trade. And we also in conversation with the customs authorities and port authorities to see what else can be done at logistics perspective. We have also supported in Pemba, for example, for offshore solution in terms of documents, how to proceed when we have backloads and loadouts. This is something that was not covered by the legislator. So we have been contributing to the growth and to the connectivity and to ensure that Mozambique becomes really a hub. Obviously, there's work to be done. There are some things that have already happened, which is very exciting, but still we can still do more, and I believe with the cooperation of every operators and also the government willingness, we can achieve this. We've coming from very far away. We had papers only for clearance, and now we're speaking of almost 60% digital. So I think we are in the right direction.
Thank you, Nilsa. Nicola, over to you. Summary, opportunities, challenges, how to address them. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, yes, I mean, I have to back Nilsa's position. I think she kind of gave the overview in terms of, infrastructure and bureaucracies is the same tangents that let's say my outlook basis is based on. Of course, maybe on the specifics regarding the logistic sector, and I think here is important also the role of IPX that is joining us in the meeting, is that it's very difficult for businesses entering Mozambique and wanting to establish, new businesses to navigate the bureaucratic and the regulatory environment. especially in a period maybe when there is like this year in which we are going into elections, and it's obvious sometimes very difficult to find the right partner for having long-term discussions. And I think here the role of RPX is really important, to be a bridgehead to help foreign companies enter the market. And so I invite, of course, all the participants here today to look, of course, to the chambers that are here to support you, but also to RPX, that is really the government agency that is mandated to support new investments in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Nilsa and Nicola, for this fireside chat. It's not always easy when we are doing that virtually, and especially for sharing your valuable insights with us today. So thank you very much. But stay with us. We're going now to open the floor for questions and, of course, answers and solutions to be found. For this, I'm going to hand over to Alexa. In the meantime, please feel free to submit your questions through the chats. Alexa, can I hand over for the Q&A?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Stephanie. There have been 2 questions so far. The first one, and I think Nuno is probably the best person to answer both. So I'm going to put the spotlight on you again, Nuno. The first question was, what is the percentage of the workforce with a university degree in Mozambique? Nuno, are you there?
Question. Thank you very much. Well, Mozambique is faced, for historical reasons, shortage of skills. We have now 49 years after independence. Most of the workforce that was trained in the independence time, they are now retired. We have more young generation. Most of them, they benefit, like the old times of university education. We have more than 50 universities, but most of them are not really very strong in terms of engineering, light engineering. Petroleum was a quite new industry. Most of them start being trained after from 2010 onwards. So most even still being trained. We heard about the shortage of knowledge and skills on the logistics side, for instance, but also not only on that sector, but even in sectors such as tourism. A lot of people, we have universities training young people to know what the tourism industry is, how to do the catering, how to do transportation. So we still have a lot of opportunity challenge, but which has clearly said one of the speakers that more than opportunity, there more than problems, there are more opportunities. So I wouldn't say that we have, in terms of literacy rate, it's about roughly around 60% in general. I don't have the figures, or we don't have publication or studies that provide the availability of pool labor. We know that official figures are talking about 27 to 30% of unemployment rate. So we have a lot of young people that are ready to work. Most of them are trainable. We have people mostly speaking Portuguese, of course, as an official language. But a lot of young people now speak different languages such as English, French, and even other language. So even Mandarin, most of them have been trained abroad. But I wouldn't say that it's easier. So that's why the government allows companies to bring experts for those skills that are not available locally. Unfortunately, I don't have the figures of, let's say we have like 10 or 20,000 people. We have a population of 52 million inhabitants. Most of them are young people, young people. So I hope any of my other speakers here can help on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nuno. I think the next question, here has his hand raised. Did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I don't have the exact percentage But I would just add that indeed there are a lot of universities now in Mozambique, but the focus seems to be more on quantity than on quality. So I think the level is not quite yet where it should be. On the other hand, we've got many Mozambicans now studying abroad, getting their, like a master degree outside of the country, and then coming back to help build the country and develop the country. So I would certainly look for Mozambicans that have studied abroad also because of the language skills. And another point that I would make is that the education system, unfortunately, is quite theoretical and not so much practical, but there is a very interesting, promising program where some of our members are also participating. It's called Field Ready, and it aims to bridge that gap between a theoretical education and practical skills that are required in the market space with internships at some of the bigger companies in Mozambique. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then Nisa had her hand, so I think she wants to add something, but there's also a logistics question. So I'm going to ask the question, and then you can answer both, if you can. As Mozambique is seen as a main role player and feeder into the hinterland countries, are there any agreements between the other countries in terms of creating better and seamless logistics from country to country? So, i.e. improving the rail infrastructure, reduction of standing time at borders, and so on. Do you know of that?
Well, there are interstate agreements. There are also some in development phases. One recent is this with South Africa, where they also consideration of having one single border instead of having two entries for this border with South Africa or many others that connect South Africa, because it's not only one. It's an example. There is also agreement in terms of power supply. There's also projects on the power supply to connect with the interland countries to ensure that they also supplied with electricity. But not only that, also Mozambique itself is not fully connected, and there's a program for that as well. So there are several programs to ensure that this happens. However, some are slow, some are in progress. And we have been monitoring, and we have been also part of those in terms of logistics by providing our expertise, by moving cargo to the final receptors and etc. Well, to add on what was the initial discussion in regards to the qualifications, well, I have to say that it's also our corporate responsibility to ensure that we train our people. And something that we've been doing as DHL, we also have our own programs for the trainees, and we support education as well of our employees, and have also internship programs. So this is a way. It's a way to support. It's a way to ensure that we mitigate the gap. Myself, I suffer if I want to look for a high qualified individual to be part of the team. So we also have to make certain decisions to ensure that we leave our legacy, and we ensure that we also provide our support to this, especially to the young generation, because as Mr. Clock rightly said, it's more theoretical, and yeah, I mean, there are improvements that are necessary, but I mean, we can also, as corporate and individuals, see what we can do to support them to mitigate the gaps. I'm more focused, for instance, for girls, because it's where we see a bigger gap as well in the country because of cultural reasons, historical reasons. So it's something that we also need to take into account. But where we have challenges, we also have opportunities. So I think we need to see both sides and perhaps take decisions on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then I've just written in the chat, I'm going to take one more question because we are very delayed in our webinar, or not very, it's very for the Swiss. For the Germans, it's not that very. It's for South Africans. I think the last question had to do with the conformity assessment program, and I think I will address it to Nuno again because it's got to do with if there's any stats available on it. So what effect has the Mozambique conformity assessment program had on imports since being implemented? Have you got any statistics on that?
Well, I don't have the numbers now. It was recently approved and implemented this year. What I know is that we had a challenge on the past of, according to the Minister of Trade in the industry, about 80% of the products were not were fake products, for instance. So that was the reason behind the introduction of this process. And at the beginning, some companies were facing problems which were related with the logistics. So from the last development, I understand that some companies still facing some problems, but improvements were made, and that was mostly due to the list of requirements for all imports having to go through that process. And some, I think my colleague from the logistics side can even elaborate more on that. I had like companies that came to us, it was time consuming for them, and it was even causing them some delays and so on. But I leave it to the people that deal with that in their daily basis. I think
Yes.
Ms. Niels and Mr. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So it's
yeah.
something new. We don't have figures, so I leave it to the
Yeah. When this started, we approached Intertech. We went for a meeting with them to understand what was the idea behind, and obviously it was because we had a lot of fake products and other non-conformity. And from that time, I'm speaking of 8 months ago to now, we don't have, because in order to implement something at the customs level, you need to have an authorization letter, I would say, something to say that from now on, you will have to present this certificate. So what is happening now, companies are presenting or not presenting and are not being penalized because this official document coming from customs is not yet available to us, logistics operators. So before we have this, it's live, but it's not live, but it can be live anytime, if you understand what I mean. It's quite unknown for now for how long this will stay, but this is the latest update which we have. So once we have a recent update from our authorities, which is the customs and the Department of Normação, which is, I would say, legislator, customs, something like that. I don't know how to translate it in good English. Once we have, we can also present it to you if you want, and our clients, as we do oftenly, because we do send customers advisories for the legislation changes, if something new is coming up that may affect our clients. So it's something that we always do, and we are constantly chasing for an update on this COC.
Thank you, Nilda. And then I will stop with the Q&A. I've taken too much time. Stephanie, I'm going to hand back over to you so you can do the closing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Alexa. And I said by Alexa as well, we will share the questions with the panelists. It's just time-wise that we are in line with the agenda, and I know that you're all very busy during the day. We want to conclude this session now on doing business in Mozambique. And we have heard of Mozambique's role as a regional logistics corridor, and it's clear that there are significant opportunities for investment and collaboration across various sectors. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all our speakers for sharing their valuable insights and expertise. And as said, we will be sharing the presentations from today with all participants shortly. This time now to also express our gratitude to our Mozambican, German and Austrian colleagues for this collaboration and making this webinar possible. So your contribution have truly enriched our understanding of the economic landscape in Mozambique. So thank you all for joining. I wish you all a very productive and fulfilling day ahead. and for the participants from the DACH region, a wonderful summer holiday. So thank you, and see you soon, hopefully somewhere in the DACH region in Mozambique or somewhere else in Africa. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.